Welcome to the Lawns and Life podcast, where DIYers go to get the tips and advice they need to have a great looking lawn. Well, hey there, lawn lovers. Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Lawns and Life podcast, where we dive deep into the world of DIY lawn care. Whether you're just starting out or a seasoned veteran looking to polish your skills, we have got something for everyone. In each episode, I break down simple, easy to understand topics that will empower you to achieve your dream lawn. My name is Devin. I am the DIY lawn coach, and thank you so much for coming back for another week. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you've had a great week. I certainly have. It's been a great week. I've been very busy, not only with work, my personal life. Things are kind of ramping up in the lawn. The YouTube channel is getting cranked up. We're pumping out some videos. Everybody's getting excited. The weather's kind of turning a little bit. We're getting some 70s, and it is phenomenal. I am so stinking excited. As you guys know, we've been talking about this for months. And so I hope you guys are doing well. Thank you so much for coming back for another week. Hope you guys are having a great day. Thank you for listening wherever you are. I really appreciate it. So today's podcast, guys, we've got a really good one. We're going to talk about sprayers. We're going to talk about how much, one of the more popular questions that I get anytime I make a spraying video is how much liquid am I supposed to use when I spray? Now, I know a lot of you guys don't spray. I love it. It's one of probably the best parts of taking care of my lawn is I really enjoy spraying. Saves me a bunch of time. And we're going to talk about all that. We're going to talk about the difference between foliar and soil-based applications and why that matters. And we're going to answer a lot of those questions. I'm also going to be making a video about this as well, but I wanted to spend some time on the podcast and just, take a slow walk through it. Make sure you guys understand, the format of a podcast. I can kind of slow down with the video. I feel like I have to be a little bit more fast paced. Like I have to keep your attention, but I'm getting some great messages from you guys. The guys that you guys are listening to the podcast, maybe driving down the road, and man, that's awesome. Because that's really why I created this podcast, is because I personally enjoy doing that. I enjoy listening, driving down the road, at work, in the gym, taking my dog for a walk. And I'm so excited that you guys are enjoying that as well. But before we jump in to the podcast, let's do this week's Mindful Moment.
It can be hard to slow down and notice things in a busy world. Mindful Moments is where we pause for a moment to reflect on the here and now. After all, life is happening now. We simply need to take time to notice. These small yet profound experiences remind us that life is not about the destination, but the journey we take to get there.
All right, so this week's Mindful Moment, and I'm just going to kind of put a disclaimer out there for you guys. I know you guys... maybe you're not of faith like I am, so I'm not going to preach too much, but I just wanted to let you know that we are going to talk about the Bible. We're going to kind of delve into that a little bit. So if you don't want to listen to that, feel free to skip ahead. You're not going to hurt my feelings. I don't want to offend anybody, but my faith is incredibly important to me. It's who I am. It's a big part of me. And again, I don't want to offend anybody, but I understand everybody's got their own views and own beliefs. So if you don't want to hear this, feel free, skip ahead, and you can come back on the other side. But, this week for Christians, as I'm recording this week for Christians was the start of Lent. So I went to service on Ash Wednesday. And if you don't know what Lent is the 40 days that Jesus was tempted in the desert, 40 days and 40 nights. And he was tempted by the devil, and he fasted in the desert through that. And so for Christians, myself included, it is a time of repentance and reflection as we move towards the cross. We're moving towards Easter. It's the 40 days, excluding Sundays before Easter. And so, and typically, we give up something. And so in my house, we not only give up something, I also take something on. So I kind of do it twofold. I give up something and then I take something on. And so really taking something away, why do we do that? Well, that is a way that we show commitment towards something, something that I enjoy. Some people take away sweets, some people take away meat, some people take away sodas or something like that. And for me, what I am taking away is something that's very hard for me to take away, and it has to do with this phone right here. And so what I'm going to start doing every morning, usually when I first wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is check my messages, see what I missed overnight. And I'm not going to do that anymore, at least for 40 days. I'm going to try it. I'm going to read a devotional every morning, say a prayer, try to give thanks, and kind of start my day a little bit differently than I have. That's a little bit of a change for me. It's hard. I've been doing it now for 3 or 4 days, and it's easy to do something for 3 or 4 days, but can you keep it up for 40 days? Can you show your commitment? All right. And the other thing that I am taking on, so that's what I'm giving up. And the thing that I'm taking on is I'm going to start running 1 mile every day. And I'm doing that, again, to show commitment. Running is something that I used to do a lot of. And as I've gotten older, it gets harder. It's harder on your knees. I've put on weight. That makes it even harder. But I am I'm weird. Like, I enjoy running. I don't enjoy starting to run, but usually once I kind of get going, I get loosened up, I feel good about it. But I'm going to start running 1 mile each day. And that is just, again, showing commitment and, showing my faith, because this is something that's really important to me. So in the comment section, if you're still listening, if you haven't skipped ahead, let me know what you guys gave up for Lent, or did you take something on? I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to know some ideas of what you guys are doing. It's just a really important season for me. And the reason why I made this the mindful moment is because it is a time of reflection. It's time to turn away from the things of this world and focus it on Jesus and getting to the cross. So thank you guys so much for those that stuck around and listened to that. I really appreciate it. Leave me a comment and let me know what you think. All right, so I told you guys one of the more popular questions that I get asked a lot is, how do I know how much liquid when I'm spraying? Now, I know many of you don't spray. Many of you guys are using broadcast spreaders to spread out your products, and that's fine. I do that too, but I would challenge you to really take a really hard look at spraying. And I'll give you my sales pitch on why I like spraying so much. So you can imagine I've got a 20,000 square foot lawn. Saving time is a big advantage of spraying. So how does spraying save you time? Well, if I had to make an application of fertilizer, and I had to make an application of fungicide, and I had to make an application of pest control, say that month, pretend it's June, and I've got to apply all 3 of those things. And those are monthly applications. Well, if it was a granular, you can't mix all those things together. You can't mix your fertilizer with your acetylprin. You can't mix that with, your other pest control. You can't mix that with, you can't mix granulars together because they all flow at different rates, right? They all come out at different rates. The prills are all different sizes. So you would have to make 3 separate applications. Well, for spraying, I can combine all of those things into one tank and broadcast spray that over my entire lawn and be done and get back inside and do something else, right? So that saves me time. And so not only does it save me time, I just enjoy doing it. So there's something very important. And anytime I make a video like that, the question is, well, how do I know how much liquid to use? And that liquid we call carrier volume. So that's just the amount of liquid inside your tank mixed with your other products to broadcast spray that over your lawn. So how much liquid do you need to cover your area? So we're going to talk about that. I'm going to explain the difference between foliar and soil-based, and then kind of how that's going to shape you choosing the amount of liquid that you need. And so again, all those questions are going to be answered. So let's, again, I told you guys, the one thing when it comes to choosing the right amount of liquid to know how much to spray on your lawn. All right. So if you're not comfortable with it and you don't understand the difference between the foliar and the soil-based, I will tell you, you could potentially harm your lawn. For example, a liquid fertilizer. If you don't have enough carrier volume, the concentration of that liquid fertilizer sprayed on your lawn could cause damage. How do I know that? Because I've done it. Through trial and error. And that's okay. My lawn survived. I kept going. I learned from it, and I haven't done it again. And then B, the other side is you could potentially be wasting time, right? Again, we talked about the biggest advantage of spraying is being able to save time. All right, so what is foliar and what is soil-based, and why does that even matter? So soil-based applications are exactly what they sound like. They're applications where we're taking the product that we're wanting to apply and we're wanting to get it into the soil. All right. So it's important to know that these applications typically need to be watered in. All right. So that extra water, so watering in just means that we're going to run our irrigation and we're going to take the water or take the liquid that was on the leaves and we're going to use extra water and we're going to wash it down off the leaf tissue onto the soil surface and add even more water to wash it down to penetrate into the soil because that's where we want it. It's a soil-based application. Some examples of this would be your biostimulants, RGS, Humic 12, pre-emergents are a soil-based application. So we're trying to get those down into the soil. All right, so I'll explain why that's important in just a minute. But foliar-based are applications that are made to the leaf tissue of the plant. And so what we're trying to do with those applications is not get them into the soil. We're trying to get them on the plant tissue where the plant can then absorb them and take them in. Those are foliar-based applications. Examples of those would be liquid fertilizers, fungicides, maybe an iron treatment, something like that. So those are foliar. Okay. So all that's great, but why does the amount of water that you use in your sprayer matter? All right, so for products that are applied foliarly, I'm going to try not to mess that up because that's kind of a hard word for me to say, foliarly. We need extra carrier volume or more water to distribute the product evenly over our lawn and get a good coating of the entire tissue of the plant versus a soil-based, when we're going to be using extra water after the fact to then rinse it off and get it down into the soil. All right. And so because of that extra water, we don't necessarily need, to make sure we're getting an even distribution. We're going to then rinse it off and get down in the soil. Right. So that's why that'll tell the tale of how much water we need when you're thinking about this. All right. So now the question becomes, now you know the difference between foliar and soil-based. Devin, how much liquid do I need to cover a given area? Well, let me tell you this. When it comes to spraying, and I'm talking a backpack, battery powered, I guess it doesn't have to be backpack. It could be a hand cam, but battery powered, where the PSI, the pounds per square inch of volume that it's putting out is consistent. Now, I'm not talking about a pump sprayer, okay? Pump sprayers are great. They work. They're fantastic. But the problem with the pump sprayer is the pressure goes up and down. So when you charge that handle, you build up the pressure and you squeeze the wand, the water comes out, the pressure drops. And you have to repump it, recharge it, right? So on and so forth. But with a battery-powered sprayer, the pressure stays consistent, right? So you could essentially, as long as you've got battery and you've got liquid, enough power and you've got enough liquid in the tank, you could essentially hold that wand and it would just spray the same amount consistently, or at least a good sprayer would, right? It just keeps spraying. All right. So that's the type of equipment that I'm talking about. So most people think, or the term that you hear is you have to calibrate your sprayer. And that's not entirely true because that's kind of a play on words because you actually have to calibrate you to the sprayer. So what do I mean by that? Because the sprayer doesn't actually, you don't calibrate it, right? You're not adjusting for the most part, you're not adjusting the volume at which it comes out, except for high and low settings, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But for what I'm saying is, it's going to put out the same amount of liquid every single time without you doing anything to it. It's going to do it on its own. Okay. So you don't necessarily need to calibrate the sprayer. The sprayer is going to do what it's going to do on the setting that it's going to do it, right? Does that make sense? What I'm saying is you have to calibrate you to the sprayer. So for example, if you wanted to put a gallon of water over 1,000 square feet, you have to determine your walking speed, how high off the ground you're going to hold that nozzle that's going to spray out the liquid to get that 1 gallon to cover that 1,000 square feet. The sprayer is not going to change. It's going to be consistent. So that's why I say you have to calibrate you to the sprayer, or you to the sprayer. Because your walking speed, if you walk really slow, well, then that gallon, you might run out of that gallon before you get across that 1,000 square feet. Does that make sense? Okay. So how much liquid you need over a given area is really up to you. How fast do you want to walk, right? How high off the ground are you going to hold that sprayer nozzle? All of those things, if you do your part and you calibrate you to the sprayer and you stay consistent with those things, that is going to help you get an even application. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're after. We're after an even application of this product across our lawn. And it takes practice and it takes time to develop that skill. And it's fun and it saves you time. And in some cases, it can be less expensive than putting, a granular. A pre-emergent is a perfect example. A granular pre-emergent costs more per 1,000 than a liquid pre-emergent does, bar none. So you could save time, save money. So that's why I say you really need to take a look at spraying. And I know it can be confusing. And I know, like everything, when you get into it and you do it, and I do want to say, if you are never sprayed before and you're trying it for the first time, use water. It's not going to hurt anything. Biostimulants are a great thing to test with, because you're not going to hurt anything if you go a little heavy or you run out before you get across the footprint of your lawn. But my recommendation is start with water, get comfortable with it. And once you figure out, oh yeah, when I walk at this speed, the tank drains at this rate and I get, X amount of feet over my lawn, right? So another thing that's really important is you have to measure your lawn. You have to know the area of what you're trying to cover. And then when you're walking, say that 1,000 square feet, you know that gallon covers that 1,000 square feet, right? It really is simple if you understand just a few basic principles. All right, so how do you figure out how much liquid you need? Well, here is a really good rule of thumb, and most people will say that a gallon of finished solution, so that is whatever you're trying to spray. So say you're going to put it over 1,000 square feet and you're going to put 1 ounce per 1,000. So that is 1 ounce of whatever it is that you're spraying, and then fill it up to the gallon. Okay, so that's a gallon of finished solution per 1,000 square feet. Okay, and that is for foliar-based applications. All right, so anytime we're applying something to the plant tissue, remember we talked about foliar versus soil-based. Now, if it's a soil-based applications, we can take a 1/2 gallon per 1,000. All right. Again, having a really good sprayer is really crucial here. I have a FlowZone 4-gallon battery-powered pump. It works great. It's got great PSI. And so when I'm mixing things like my RGS and my Humic 12 and my Aerate, those things can get pretty thick. Okay. That pump can handle it. Really, really nice. 1 gallon per 1,000 for foliar, 1/2 gallon per 1,000 for soil-based. Now, me, in my lawn, in my situation, I can walk a bit faster than that. All right. So I can get my 4 gallons of finished solution to cover 10,000 square feet. So that's roughly a little less than a gallon per thousand. Excuse me. I'm sorry. That's less than half a gallon per thousand. And that is for soil-based applications. So if I'm applying RGS, Humic 12, those type things, my pre-emergence, I'll fill my tank with 4 gallons of finished solution, and then I can walk my lawn on the low setting of the sprayer. Now, again, we talked about calibrating you to the sprayer. Well, in this case, the sprayer has 2 different calibrations. It has a low setting and it has a high setting. So I have determined that on the low setting, it puts out a less gallons per minute. At my same walking speed and holding the wand at the same height, I can still get 4 gallons to cover that 10,000 square feet. And then I can use my irrigation system or sprinkler or rain or whatever to wash that down into the soil and get it where it needs to be. Now, if I'm doing a foliar application, I will use that same 4 gallons over half the area. So I'm using twice as much water. I'm using twice as much carrier volume. So 4,000 to cover 4 gallons to cover 5,000 square feet. And I don't change my walking speed. I don't change the height at which I'm spraying. The only thing I change is the pressure at which the liquid is coming out. It's coming out at a faster rate. So does that make sense? So now I'm putting out twice as much liquid, and I'm really not having to adjust anything other than flipping a switch. So for me, it's incredibly easy, and it's incredibly repeatable and consistent every single time. And that is a big key to my success. It saves me time, money, energy. It's phenomenal, and I enjoy doing it. It's kind of cool to be mixing stuff up and broadcast spraying it. So hopefully I didn't make things worse, but it makes sense in my mind. Again, I'm going to make a video on this, and we'll kind of show everything, but I thought I'd kind of make a little podcast and we just kind of slow walk through this. And if you've got a question, leave that down below. I'd love to chat with you down there, answer any questions you have. But again, for a foliar-based application, all right, we want to do a gallon per thousand. We want extra liquid so we can cover the plant, right? And for soil-based, we don't need quite as much liquid because remember, we're going to add more liquid to it and rinse it down into the soil. But there's one more thing that has really contributed to my success, and it's the tip. It's the sprayer tip. The ones that come with the flow zone, I don't recommend them unless you're doing pest control because maybe up in the eaves of your house, but they're not made for spraying grass. What I use are the Pete's GCI. I think he calls them the Nozzle Buddy. They didn't call them that when I bought it. I've had it for 4 or 5 years. 4 or 5 years, maybe. Let's go with 3 or 4. But what it does is it allows me to get an 8-foot swath. So a swath is from my left furthest spraying to my right furthest spraying. And you can see it broadcasting, whenever you're spraying. And it gives me 8 feet left and right. So 4 feet to the left and 4 feet to the right. And so that allows me to take less passes. And I know based on that sprayer nozzle, on that setting, at my walking speed, holding the tip at knee height, I can do that and get 4 gallons to cover 10,000 or 5,000, depending on if it's high or low. Every single time, like clockwork. Because again, I've done this over time. I do it once or twice a month, and I enjoy it. It's fun. So I hope that clears up any confusion that you might have. But again, practice with water if you're not comfortable. Practice with, your biostimulants. Not going to hurt anything. It's good for the soil, right? And hope that helps. right, y'all. So thank you so much for coming back for another week. We did not have a guest. I'm hopeful that I'll get another guest on really soon. I've got a couple of feelers out there. Hopefully they'll come to fruition. I hope you guys like having guests on. It's fun for me. It's certainly a lot easier. I just get to sit back, relax, ask them questions, let them do all the work. But it's just fantastic. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. Go check out my website. Launched a bunch of new merch on there. Go buy yourself a shirt. Get ready for the 2025 lawn season. Yeah, have a great week. I'll see you guys next week. And take care. My name is Devin. I'm the DIY lawn coach. I can't wait to see you in the lawn. Peace.